edge. Is that a dismissal? They're celebrating, and that's the end of it. A dot delivery. Ireland, they go on to win this first T20 international. What a match we've witnessed.
Unbelievable. Josh Little, fantastic experience on those young shoulders. Wonderful last over, just 8 conceded. Incredible performance here for Ireland.
Yeah, it sure was. We are joined in studio by Andrew, or Andy as we'll call him, Balbirnie, current captain of the Irish cricket team in all formats. Ireland fresh from a drawn T20 series against the West Indies. What we heard there was Ireland going 1-0 up in the series. The second day was a washout, and then the third day the West Indies levelled the series. They came on strong. They are a very good team. And so, Andy, you come back with a drawn T20 series against the West Indies. I presume on the one hand, very, very satisfying to beat the West Indies in their own backyard. On the other hand, tinged with a touch of regret that we could have come home with a series win. A historic would have been series win.
Yeah, I think so. I think obviously the world champions when it comes to T20 cricket, they've got a lot of players who've played in all the big major leagues, the Indian Premier League and that sort of thing. So to win the first game in a 3-match series, we haven't done that often, even when we play sort of Afghanistan and teams at our own level. So to go 1-0 up, it was certainly a case of job well done, but at the same time, we've got 2 huge games where we can come back having made history.
Yeah, because you'd been out there for the one-day series initially. You lost that 3-0. It would have been entirely understandable, very easy even for the team to just accept their fate, go through the motions in the T20 series, but they obviously didn't. So after the one-day series 3-0, is there a let's have a chat, lads, we need to get going again type moment?
Yeah, look, the second ODI we lost by a wicket, and we had 2 or 3 opportunities to win the game. So I think for a lot of the guys who came into the squad young, who haven't played at that level often, they kind of realised that, we can actually beat these guys, we can go toe-to-toe with them. So it gave them the confidence, and you just see how some of the lads played in that first T20. I think we set a world record partnership for a power play in '93, I think it was. So the guys had a bit of a swagger about them, and when you're playing a team like the West Indies, if you don't have that swagger, if you don't have that belief, they're going to hammer you. And I suppose they did do that in the third T20 because they had to come out and play, or else they, in their eyes, in their people's eyes, they would have been humiliated.
I presume that is a thing for Irish cricket to get to grips with, a certain swagger, as a deep belief we belong here and we're as good as these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And for years we've punched above our weight. Whenever we've gone to World Cups, we've managed to get some big results. And for the young guys coming in to get that experience of beating a world champion team in their own backyard, that's as good an experience as you can get in any form of cricket or in any sport. So we've got a big year of T20 cricket specifically. We've got a World T20 in Australia in October, which sort of everything's gearing for. We've got a lot of games leading into that where we're going to try a lot of things and try to make sure we have our best 11 when we go out in Australia. So I was just very impressed to see how some of the new guys into the squad went about their work. Yeah,
and it is a youngish team, like the likes of Josh Little are being thrown into really pressurised scenarios.
Yeah, and that's the way it's going to be, I think, for the next few years. We don't have the player pool as a lot of big cricket nations around the world. We don't have the finances, or half the finances. So our young guys are going to pretty much come straight from interprovincial cricket into the hotbed of international cricket and in those tough situations. And that's what the message we're trying to say to them is that we're going to go, through bumpy roads. I saw Joe Root there was a piece in the Daily Express today saying that they've got young guys coming into their test team and they're going to have ups and downs, and I think we've got to expect that as well, that we're sort of learning about how these guys go about it and how the younger guys cope and develop in pressurised situations. So the good thing is we do have a lot of time before the T20 World Cup, so we can find out more about these players, so that when it comes to a pressurised game and a T20 or knockout game, we'll know how they cope with it.
And Andy, what is the general pathway for a young, talented cricket player in this country? Are they coming through schools level? Is it generally clubs? And that leap that you talk about to international cricket, I presume, is a big one.
Yeah, I suppose it comes from clubs now. Schools cricket wouldn't be that big. When I was growing up, I finished school and I went to England and played there for years, whereas now that's not allowed because we're a test nation and an Irish player is seen as an overseas player in the UK, which obviously hinders us because it was a bit of a finishing school for a young cricketer. I was blessed that I was 19 and I was able to go over to Lords and play there for 5 or 6 years, and about 7 or 8 of us did the same in various counties around the country. So now we have our own interprovincial system which has first class status. So our guys who come up through the club ranks get earmarked and they get put into the system, and we play each other in an interprovincial system. And then we have the Wolves, the Ireland Wolves setup, which is the A team. So, look, like I said, we don't have the player pool, so we have about a group of 18 or 19 players that we know are going to play international cricket.
I think there's 19 centrally
contracts. So that's why the Wolves system is so important. They go to South Africa at the start of February to play Namibia. So that's such an important stepping stone to find out about those players.
Because the quality of opposition and player you would have been up against and playing with at Middlesex, for instance, is obviously higher than you would have got here if you were coming through in 2019.
Yeah, it is, and you get more regular cricket. So when I was over in England, I was playing 4 days a week every week, whereas in Ireland, the Interpro, as good as the level is, there's not enough cricket. So guys aren't used to batting for long periods when it comes to test match preparation, whereas in England you'd have a 3-day game, you could bat for a day and a half, whereas we don't have that here. So guys are losing out in that experience, but there is, from what I've seen, there's as much talent in Ireland as there is in county cricket, but it's just trying to get them to develop into that international stage, because they will be thrown into the deep end, and it's a tough place to learn, but that's why it was so positive to see guys come out of that sort of unscathed and haven't got through that.
Was there any voice in the country as Ireland pushed for test status saying, well, we are going to lose the finishing school that is the Middlesex option for young players, maybe we shouldn't rush into this, maybe we're not ready to facilitate their development, or is it just complete no-brainer? If you can get test status, you get it?
I think as a player, for me, the ultimate goal when I was a kid was to play test cricket, so if that opportunity came about, you know, I wanted that. Like I said, I was lucky that I got to do both. Whereas,
the best of both worlds.
Yeah, the best of both worlds. And a lot of the guys who are in the squad now or have just recently retired, your Niall O'Brien's, Ed Joyce's, Tim Murtagh's, they got the best of both worlds as well. So
it's a bit akin almost to a younger player going over to Manchester United for his teenage years, really developing and coming home playing League of Ireland and being a very, very good player and being glad of the experience at United, because the academy in League of Ireland mightn't have been up to scratch. That's the analogy.
Yeah, exactly right. I got to play with some world-class players in Middlesex, learn from some of the best batting coaches. So naturally you're in an environment where you're going to get better every day. At the moment, like I said, you know, we do have world-class coaches, but only a handful, whereas in England there's so many, and there's so many opportunities with counties. But like I said, we do have those young players in place. We just have to make sure that they're ready when it comes to the big stage.
So that's where we are. So with the T20 World Cup on the horizon in Australia, what are realistic our ambitions or expectations for us to have of the team? Where is it at the moment?
Well, basically, how it works is there's 2 groups of 4 to get, and the top 2 teams from each group go into like the Super 8s with the big boys. So we're with Sri Lanka, Oman and Papua New Guinea. Our aim is to get out of that group, pure and simple. If we don't get out of the group, that'll be a major disappointment. Our T20 cricket over the last couple of years has been a bit hit and miss, but I think we're starting to find our identity and find the way that we want to play, and I think the guys who've come into the squad are buying into that. So like I said, we have a lot of games leading into the World T20 to try things and try different, you know, partnerships and try different individuals in certain positions, so that when we go to that World Cup, we'll have all bases covered.
That's where I wanted to ask you actually about the nature of captaincy in cricket. So congratulations, current captain of Ireland in all formats as of November last year, I think.
Yeah.
So this really was your first go at it in some respects over in the West Indies over the last couple of weeks. David Clifford, for instance, has been made captain of the Kerry footballers. The vagaries of the club system there means at 21 he's captain, and really it's just a title. He can continue doing exactly what he has done, and he's just, you know, leading by example, that type of captain. Someone else can scream and bang the table in the huddle if need be. So that's not the case in your sphere. What exactly are your responsibilities as captain? How do they dovetail with the coach?
Yeah, well, I suppose that's the main relationship for me is with the coach. We obviously talk a lot about what we want to do when we play the games, but once we're over the line, it's all down to me, and I've got to make sure that I make the bowling decisions. I've obviously got people out there that I'll talk to, you know, experienced players, Paul Sterling, Kevin O'Brien, these guys. But when it comes to it, you know, I've got to make the decision with what I want and what I kind of feel. And a lot of it's gut feel. If you think, you know, a new batsman's come in, he doesn't play quick bowling particularly well, you bring on a quick, just those sort of things. And just kind of dealing with a lot of personalities. And I played a lot of cricket with all these guys, so I know them pretty well. And it's certainly different from just being a player. One of the important points that I was told by numerous people was just focus on your batting, because a lot of people, when it comes to cricket, can get a bit sidetracked so much with the captaincy that they almost forget about their main skill and what they're actually in the team for. So I've kind of said to myself to try to lead from the front with my batting first and foremost, and then the rest will sort of fall in place.
And do you get involved in team selection in a big way pre-game?
Yeah, no, the 11 is down to me at the end of the day. I'll sit down with the coach and the bowling coach and batting coach, and we'll talk about different things, but when it comes to it, the 11 that I want, that'll be what we play with. The extended squad that we go on tour with is selected by the national selector and the coach, and then I'm given a squad of 14 and then pick an 11 from that.
Is there any danger that you can feel a man apart within the team environment? I mean, there's a bit of baggage if you're sitting next to the guy at lunch that you dropped.
Yeah, there is, and like I said, I have a lot of close friends and that's William Porterfield when he retired said that was the hardest part of the job, is going up to someone the day before a game and they're, you know, knocking on their hotel room and explaining to them why they're not playing, and, you know, naturally you'll have questions back, and that's great because, you know, they all are desperately want to play for Ireland, and you've got to break the bad news to them. But what was great from my point of view this tour is the guys I did break the news to, the next day in nets, you know, they were running in and trying to take my head off, and that's what I want to see that, and but that is certainly the toughest job.
Has any team in cricket looked at this and said, well, compared to other sports, this seems like a lot of baggage to put on a player? Tradition's great and everything, but actually we're just going to get a coach in who picks the team and takes a lot of that responsibility off the captain. It's amazing, I think, in 2020 that level of pressure and that tradition has survived and remained intact. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it's a good point. There's a lot of captains who've gone before who maybe haven't had the record as a batsman or a bowler as they did when they weren't captain, and it's always, it's because he's captain, it's the extra pressure. So I'm fully aware of that, and that's why I'm kind of overemphasising why I want to focus so much on my batting, because, you know, what I wanted to do 18 months ago was secure my place. I managed to do that. You take your game to the next level, and now I want to captain the team, you know, captain the team in Test cricket, ODI, all of that. I just, and I did it at underage cricket, and I found that, you know, it almost made me a better player at underage cricket. Not to say it'll do it at senior level, but there's no reason why I can't kind of set my standards even higher.
So you had no hesitation when the offer came?
No, absolutely not. I think it was a bit of a shock when I got it, because you think you might get it, but when they ask you, you're a bit like, can you repeat that again, just to make sure we're clear? But no, it's something I wanted to do since I was a kid. I've played cricket since I was 7, so to be able to follow the footsteps of probably our most successful captain is a huge honour. And to have him around the group is great, because there's a lot of young batters coming in, and like I said, that is our kind of county experience, having those senior guys around who have been there, done that, been there for all of Ireland's greatest moments, to kind of talk to them about, you know, how to stay calm under pressure and that sort of stuff is brilliant.
What are the hardest decisions you have to make on field?
Hardest decisions are probably field setting, because depending on the wickets all around the world, you play on slower wickets, faster wickets. Every field you set, you want to take a wicket with. So you got to be aggressive, but you also got to be conservative in the sense that you don't want to leak too many runs. So I'd say field setting is probably the most difficult thing. You have a lot of guys in the squad who are, you know, shouting from a position, put him there, but you've got to go with your gut. And that's one thing William told me, was that you will get a lot of opinion from other people, and naturally I was the same when I didn't captain. But at the end of the day, you've got to go with what you think's best at the time.
And when the atmosphere is up and the crowd are up, I presume that's quite difficult if you've got a lot of cooks in the kitchen with a lot of opinion. You always need to go, everyone shut up. I need to get this message out to people, and I can barely hear myself. Yeah,
we actually had a couple of instances in Grenada. We had a full house in Grenada, or near to a full house, and they were loud, playing bands, and, you know, we had some of the guys in the boundary, and I was trying to shout a message on them to move, whatever, and they were just away with the fairies. They weren't looking at me, and I was losing my voice, and because you have to bowl your overs in a certain amount of time, and we were losing time, and I was obviously my first game in T20 cricket. I was a bit like trying to get my message across so badly, but no one was watching me. I felt like, is this actually happening? Like, I'm going to get fined in my first game for going over time, but.
How do you say? Do you sprint out to tell them, or
you have to sprint, or the closest person will see me and then he'll tell them? But eventually, you know, you tell them, just keep your eyes on me at all time, because T20 cricket is so fast and field change every ball, so people have just got to be a bit more aware. And
then I presume it morphs into some kind of screaming my head off, and also sign language.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't want to be seen as kind of, you know, too dictatory when you're throwing your hands about and stuff like that. But
look at Balbirnie, he's a diva.
Yeah, exactly. First few games, I just wanted to kind of settle in nicely.
So it was very interesting. Like, that's, you know, in a sense, it's a whole new skill set to develop. Like, and how good you get at it is going to dictate a lot for the team as much as your batting.
Yeah, exactly. And I suppose all the players that were on tour and all the players that I'm captaining at the moment, they all had William as captain, so they all...
He'd done it since 08.
Yeah, he'd done it since 08, so like an incredible longevity, and he was such a successful captain, led from the front with the bat. So I think he found it difficult in the first couple of games. I could sort of see him maybe wanting to say something about it, but also at the same time backing off and saying this isn't my job anymore. But he's brilliant. He's still someone I chat to just about small details about the game, and to have someone like that and so open to chat to is brilliant for me.
Where are the areas that Ireland can bridge the gap on the big teams? I was talking to someone just before coming on air, and they were making the point that maybe fielding, in particular, what we're talking about, those decisions that you make require a touch less skill, for instance, than being a world-class batsman.
Yeah, and that's a point we've made, is that we're not as skillful as England, Australia, South Africa. We're just not. We're not as fast bowlers and that sort of stuff. But what we can be is that never say die attitude in the field, throw ourselves around, have that intimidation factor that other teams might not have. Just those small percentages that we can get one up. I think I remember watching the Irish team in 07 and 08. And William, again, was probably one of the best fielders in the world at the time, and he led the front and everyone kind of followed his standards. So I think in that T20 game, the one we won against West Indies, that was probably the best fielding display I'd seen from an Irish team in the last few years. So they're the kind of standards we have to set, and if we're to beat big teams, we have to be like that. And
if you take Test cricket, one-day internationals, T20, is there a format of the game that suits those Irish strengths better than the others?
Yeah, I think T20 cricket and one-day cricket fielding is so important, not just catching, whereas Test cricket it's probably more catching because there's more catching opportunities in the slips and stuff. But white ball cricket predominantly is throwing yourself around, run-out opportunities, a lot more run-out opportunities than in red ball cricket. And if we can take those small little opportunities, run-outs, diving catches or saving a four, or whatever it is.
Work rate,
exactly. Just work as hard as we can for 20 overs or 50 overs. And then chase or set whatever we have to with the bat. Yeah,
I presume you guys have to be incredibly fit to keep all this going, especially that kind of high tempo work rate game you're talking about.
Yeah, and we have a lot of travel and we have a lot of different conditions. We go to India end of March, then we're in Zimbabwe, and then we have a home summer. We go to England, Australia, right. Potentially Pakistan. So there's a lot of different climates, and you just have to be, exactly. You have to be fit. You have to be cricket fit and just ready to go whenever you're called upon. And I think everyone sort of buys into that, absolutely.
What's home life like for you then with all the travelling? Are you in a relationship? You got family? Do you try and develop your career for after cricket on the side as well?
Yeah, absolutely. You have to. I think I went to university. A lot of the guys went to university before cricket. That's something that my family sort of instilled into me, was that this won't last forever, and that was probably the best thing I ever did.
What'd you do?
Did sports coaching in Cardiff. So I don't necessarily know if I want to get into coaching. I actually want to get into journalism, so I might.
Don't do it.
Yeah, no. It's something like I've done a bit of commentary like here and there, and I kind of like it. I love sport, so that's something that I want to get involved in. My girlfriend Kate, she plays pretty much every sport under the sun. She's got an All-Ireland football medal, and she's an Irish indoor international. She's an Irish cricket international, so we have a lot of common. So she'll always try to talk to me about cricket and stuff, and she's she's very knowledgeable when it comes to sport.
Okay, so she's the better sports person.
She's the better sports person, yeah.
More of the all-rounder.
Maybe edit that one out.
Very good. I did want to ask you about the Test cricket situation. So where we are at the moment, I think most people have been very excited by this development. There was the first Test match against Pakistan.
Yeah.
Lords in the summer was good fun,
yeah.
And we were covering those big days. That was kind of amazing, and I presume an important statement on the field to say we belong here. Yeah. If you invite us on tour, or we take on teams, we're going to put up a good show, and you get a good game. So that's one aspect of being a success at Test level. The players holding up their end of the bargain. The other point I wanted to ask you about was I saw Warren Dootram, the Chief Executive of Cricket Ireland. He's been very critical of the ICC over a lack of funding, because there was, for instance, a Test match arranged against Bangladesh, which then had to be downgraded. I hadn't fully appreciated this. There is extra expense in hosting a Test match, and that is money that Cricket Ireland don't necessarily have. They need help. Yeah. So that's a bit of a issue, a bit of tension at the moment with the ICC.
Yeah, it is. And look, the ICC, that obviously there's the big three, Australia, India and England, who bring in all the money for cricket probably around the world. We don't bring in those numbers, and as a cricketer, as a captain, you want to play as much Test cricket as possible. That first day in Lords will be the highlight, I think, for me, that I'll ever have in cricket. It was something that kind of pinch yourself stuff, and I think the guys that were there just wanted more of it. So I suppose we were meant to have 2 or 3 Test matches this year. It's looking like we might not have any. I think our first Test against Pakistan cost Cricket Ireland nearly €1 million, and it's just, I can see it from a business point of view that it just doesn't make sense. So,
and is the expense, do you have to give money to Pakistan, or is it just the actual staging of it?
I think it's just the staging of it. I don't think you have to pay Pakistan themselves. Obviously, there's hosting them, hotels, that sort of stuff for 5 days. And
you pay all that?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I'm not.
That would explain
sure.
the million.
Yeah. So it's difficult, and look, to lose matches is never good, but I can see that other side, and you got to appreciate. And what I've tried to say to the guys is that if we go out and perform when we play T20s or ODI crickets and produce results, it'll have a snowball effect. Like, people will then go, we want to be part of this team, whether it's sponsorship or, international teams going, hey, let's get them over for a test match, that sort of thing. So,
and is that how it works at test level, that literally you just wait for the invite, you wait for the phone to ring? Yeah,
well, like, usually you do have a schedule for the next 2 or 3 years, but the odd time you get a pop-up fixture and fixtures change here and there, or instead of 5 ODIs you might get a test match, those sort of things. So, like I said, if we can go to a World Cup and get through to the next stage and beat a couple of the top teams, we then become more appealing to people outside cricket as well.
Okay, so there is a certain randomness to the schedule, and
yeah, I mean, we do, like I said, we do have a set out fixture list, but it can change from year to year.
So when's the next test match? You don't know?
No, I think we were due to play in Zimbabwe in April, but that's a bit up in the air. I think we're just playing 3 T20s and 3 ODIs, but it could change. It could change again.
Okay. Interesting. That's a bit of a frustration.
It is, and it's a frustration for family. Like, my family, had booked Sri Lanka for the test match, which is next week. My brothers and I are just going for a holiday, so it's a shame. But at the same time, like I said, you've got to be wary of what's going on behind the scenes. Do
you practice different things in training in the fortnight before a test match as opposed to a one-day international or a T20?
For me, not really, because I have my sort of technique that I go by. It's sort of like my Bible, and I stick to it. Obviously, you have a change of ball. You have a white ball and you have a red ball, and the red ball is a completely different, not just colour, but a completely different ball. It's quite difficult when we're indoor. We only have the one surface, so the ball won't really move as much. So once we get outdoor, that's when we get tested more. But I suppose not many test games this year. The sole focus is going to be white ball cricket.
What's the trickier ball?
The red ball, 100%. The red ball seam is more, it's bigger. The white ball seam is flat, so it doesn't move off the grass, whereas the red ball seam moves off the grass more, which is obviously more difficult for the batter.
So it could hit the grass and go left, right, or
exactly. Yeah, Tim Murtagh was the expert at that, and that's exactly what he did at Lords. He doesn't necessarily swing the ball, but he just puts it on a sixpence and it moves one way or the other, and the batsman doesn't know which way it's going to go.
You don't know?
No, you don't know which way it's going to go.
No way of telling from the way he throws.
You can tell when it swings, because in the air it'll swing, but once it hit the grass and nips, it's anyone's guess. You've got to just play it as late as possible.
But he knows which way it's going to react.
No, not. Well, it depends on how he holds the seam, but
he may not know.
No, sometimes he does. I'm Tim Murtagh. I'm not sure about. He's got thousands of wickets, and he'll probably slate me for that. But
okay, so let's say he knows, but in the main, lots of bowlers would not know when the ball hits the turf.
Yeah, they want to just present the seam in an area, and it may. Look, if they hold it one way, it might go that way, but it may change, and that's the tricky bit about red ball cricket is when you have 4 guys behind you ready to catch it for your nick, it's difficult. But that's my favourite format, because it tests you to the max as a batter and tests every bit of your technique.
You must be seeing it incredibly late.
Yeah, well, and if you've got a bowler bowling 90 miles an hour doing that, that's when it really becomes tricky. I think that third day at Lords, when the lights came on and it was a bit gloomy, and we were obviously bowled out for 30 odd, that was the welcome to Test cricket moment. We had our day out in the sun on the first day, but the third day was England going, this is what it's actually like, and we were...
It sounds honestly like you'd be just as well off closing your eyes and feeling the force.
There are some people...
Somebody in Yoda.
Some of the bowlers, when they bat, may as well close their eyes and just have a swing, but... it's a great game, and it's a unique game, and it's so different around the world. Different pitches, different countries use different balls, and there's all these little kind of nooks and crannies about it that makes it so unique.
How do you work on your instincts? Or, sorry, not your instincts, rather your reaction time. Your reaction time is what I meant.
Just repetition in the nets. Everyone's quite different. There are guys that could be in the nets and they put the bowling machine on 90 miles an hour and just practice seeing it coming that quickly and reacting to it.
So training your brain to slow time down a little bit?
Sort of, yeah, and just getting your eye in. That's what we say as batters, is your first 20 balls, you want to just get used to the pace, get used to the wicket, get used to the conditions, just get your eye in. They're always the trickiest part of batting, is the first 20 balls, because you're getting a gauge of how things are going to go.
Yeah. What about your bat? You know, like we have hurlers come through here all the time, and increasingly they are very picky about how they want their hurl golfers, obviously, it's gone to a different level in terms of the specifications and the minutiae. Is a bat just a bat? Certain heaviness maybe, but that might be the height of it?
Yeah, my bat's at 2 pounds 8 ounces, and I get mine from Pakistan, and so I just tell them this is the weight I want. I'm not that specific about it. Like I wouldn't pick at them and go, oh, that's definitely, oh, that's a bit 2.7.5, and then one grip. There are guys who are so specific.
Right.
They'll know straight away if it's off, and they'll send it back and send me another.
Is weight the big thing, as opposed to, and again, this is not an aficionado talking, but you know, the hardness of the wood, the spring effect, all that stuff.
And I suppose the middle of the bat is obviously the most important bit, because that's where the meat is. And some bats from the subcontinent where the wickets are lower, the middle will be lower on the bat because the ball isn't bouncing as much. Whereas in England, Australia, you'll have higher middles because it bounces more.
So might you change your bat when you're playing in different territories?
Yeah, like we play a lot of our cricket in the subcontinent anyway, because we play Afghanistan, who play in India. We play a lot of cricket in the UAE. So a lot of the cricket we do play are on lower wickets. We go to Australia obviously in October, so they'll be bouncer wickets, which I think will actually suit our batters. But I wouldn't be too picky when it comes to my equipment.
Okay, I'm sure there are some personalities out there.
Yeah, there are some absolute belters.
They dive deep.
Yeah, big time.
I've been living for the last 7 years near the Phoenix Park, and one of my favourite things to do of a summer's evening, if I'm out of here early or if I have it off, is, you know, we might go for a walk and there's often a game on, and to sit down for an hour, chill, a bit of food and watch the game going on. And what strikes me about it is it's a lovely atmosphere. You know, like some people talk about GAA and there's rows and refs getting put into boots of a car and stuff, but there's a lovely atmosphere. It's very competitive. You've got incredibly young players alongside very, very old players. Often you suspect family members. You've got different mixes of nationalities. And it just looks like a really enjoyable sport to play for a long time in your life. What's the health of the game in the country? Is participation on the rise? Is it a constant fight to get more people involved? Where are we from a cricket point of view in this country?
I think we're always going to be, you know, fighting to get, because all of our best sports people are playing either rugby, GAA, soccer naturally, because they're the biggest sports in the country. So we're always going to be looking for more players and looking for more talent. And
so how do you try and get into schools, or is there a program to try and let people encounter the game? Because growing up, it never came into my sphere.
Yeah, no, and I only started playing it because I grew up 50 yards away from a cricket ground, and every summer we'd get, you know, thrown down to the cricket club and we just play stumpy test all day. And
so just chance, really?
Yeah, just chance. And I suppose the hotbed of Dublin cricket would be around sort of Sandymount. You've got 5 or 6 clubs in that area. You've got the Phoenix Park, Clontarf, Malahide. I suppose schools is probably the big one. That's where you want to kind of get them playing from a young age and getting them to grips with how to play the game. Obviously, when it comes to 15, 16, that's probably the hardest part, is because other things come out, you know, school, you know, drinking probably is
every sport.
Just everything. You just, you know, they don't want to play cricket anymore, and that's I've seen so many brilliant cricketers grow up with me who are miles better than me, but just kind of got to that age and was just like, I'm a bit over this. So it's trying to make sure that we nurture the talent as much as we can, because, you know, we aren't blessed with all the players that the other countries have. So the clubs are in a fight for survival fairly routinely, are they, in terms of numbers? Yeah, I mean, the majority of them would have 5 or 6, you know, men's teams and 3 women's teams. So there are, like, my club Pembroke down in Sandymount would be probably the biggest. And like you said, what the best thing about it is I grew up playing with guys who are, you know, 3 times my age. And I know, it's great, and they make the young lads do all the running. Exactly, yeah, and they just stand and slip and go to the slip and then eat their big tea and then don't get any runs, and then they'll have a pint and chat to you. And it's just, like, I have so many friends from so many different parts of the world, and it's taken me all over the world, and I'm just very fortunate to be able to do it for a living at the moment. Well, good man, keep it going. So this is a big year. You're just, I should mention, you've just flown in today. This morning, yeah. So you don't even know where you are or what day it is? No, I don't even know. Tuesday? Yeah, Tuesday. Close enough. Yeah. So it's a big year ahead. I guess we'll probably try and check in with you at some stage across the year. I'll bring a bat in and we can squeeze it in somewhere. 100%. It's a World Cup year. I think it's the least we can do. So Andy Balbirnie, well done on a drawn series in the West Indies, and best of luck for 2020. Cheers, man. Thank you very much. Cheers.